guess I'll open it up a little bit. I think you guys saw us make a lot of trades. I think really the opportunity really just presented itself just to kind of move back, kind of counting players, and felt like it was a good opportunity to move back and, pick up some extra draft capital kind of moving forward, kind of set us up for the future a little bit. Really excited about Jonathan Brooks. We thought he was the best running back in the class. Just the way, the person, the player, like everything about him we really like. So really excited to get him. And then we just picked Trevin Wallace, athletic freak, a guy that can run sideline to sideline, strike ball carriers. And I think his ceiling's really high. I think he's a guy that's going to keep developing, and turn into a good linebacker for us. So we're really excited about this class so far. We got four picks to go, and keep rolling.
Dan, at 33, which obviously became 32, but with coming into this draft, did you have a mind of trying to get back that second for next year that went for the Bears trade?
Yeah, no, not really. Like, I didn't come in saying we got to get that 2 back. When it presented itself, we thought it was a really good opportunity. Hey, we can get that 2 back. And it was good timing, I would say. So we felt good about that. We were really happy about that, and acquiring that pick.
Again, not going to lie, a lot of people I think were caught off guard by the selection of a running back. Based on some of the comments you've made in terms of your commitment to Chuba and Miles. That said, now you got a new guy in the mix. Where does this leave everybody going forward? Is there going to be some adjustments? So some guys possibly not staying?
Yeah, I think Dave can speak on that a little bit. But what I would say is we got a really good running back room right now. And when Dave and I took this job, we said that we were going to create competition in every position group, and it just so happened. Jonathan was there. We took the opportunity to draft him, and I think it's going to be a really competitive group, and I'm excited to see them all, compete during training camp and OTAs, and it's going to be fun.
With Wallace, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Couldn't have said it better.
Okay, with Wallace,
say it again.
I guess from a read and react standpoint,
Yeah.
he seemed to fit what you guys kind of were looking for. How much did Peter kind of play a role in that? How much did you you're a former linebacker. How much did you kind of zone in on him?
Yeah, I think obviously we're going to take the input of the coaches. They do a tremendous job. They put a ton of work in on this class. So obviously, we value what all the coaches say. Obviously, like Trevin a lot too. We had him in here on a 30 visit. Really impressive young man. Just the way he carries himself, just kind of talking to us in the room, he kind of fell in love with the kid in there. So those 30 visits, I do think they mean a lot, and that's just a case right there. We just drafted him, in the 3rd round, and we're really excited about him.
Brooks said that all indications are he'll be ready for training camp coming off the ACL. What did your medical say? You feel confident about that?
Yeah, they feel good about it. Obviously, we felt good about it, and I think he's right on schedule. And again, super excited to have him.
Either of you guys could address this, but you take Trevin, and you mentioned, Dan, looking toward the future with some of these picks and moves tonight. Is that a guy you see as a Shaq successor?
I don't know if it's like a Shaq successor. Shaq's played at a high level for a long time. Obviously, we think a lot of Shaq. We think a lot of Josie. We're really excited about those guys. I just want Trevin to come in here, and I think Dave would say the same thing. Come in here, learn, compete, earn the respect of these veterans out there. I think that's the main thing, just coming in as a rookie, is just kind of growing, get behind the right veteran leadership, and just kind of find his way. And we have some really good vets in this locker room.
Dan, with these trades, have you been the aggressor, or have other teams been the aggressor, or is it been a mix of both?
I think it's like a little bit of mix of both. It definitely wasn't like on purpose, like to try to trade before every single pick, but kind of turned out that way. I didn't even realize it until afterwards. But it just really presented itself, to be honest with you. And again, when you're going through the draft board and you're kind of counting your numbers, you know, you find those opportunities to trade back and acquire more picks, whether for now or whether for the future. So we just took that opportunity and took advantage of it.
That said, is this kind of the ultimate like fantasy fun draft for you, where you're just wheeling and dealing?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think there's a little more pressure than that, but no, it's definitely fun. It's fun. We really enjoy ourselves in there, and you know, to sit alongside Dave and Brant and Mr. Tepper and just the whole crew in there, like we have a blast in there. We have fun, and you know, this is just part of it.
Kind of going off of that with all these trades, I know the goal of every trade is to improve value and make the team better. But I'm curious, how do you make kind of those snap-second decisions on acquiring capital or making those decisions versus guys that are on the board that you might like that might not be there when you trade back?
Yeah, I think to my point earlier is these picks. We obviously like some of these players on the board, but when you're counting numbers and you maybe feel like guys are similar to each other or they're around the same talent level, you feel like you can trade back and just acquire more picks and more draft capital to set us up for the future.
Yeah, and you talked, I believe it was in Orlando, about how important hanging on to those draft assets were. Having that too next year, what does that do just for the long-range planning of this thing?
I mean, it's obviously great, acquiring that two. We didn't have one, and to have 2 twos this year and to go in the next year with no twos, I don't know what I would have done. It was great having those 2 twos. So to get that 2 back, it definitely feels good, and see where it goes from there.
Dave, what does Jonathan do? What's his skill set that you think really fit well with you like to do in the run game?
Yeah, versatility. First and foremost, our system calls for a back that can be used, of course, just in a traditional way, hand it to him. Then how can we get this player in space, being able to get him in perimeter screens, check downs. We got a really cool empty package where we use the backs, flex them out to get matchups, things like that. He's a bigger back. He's got range. There's so much that he brings from a versatility standpoint. That's probably the biggest thing that stood out. And then just vision, patience, contact balance, acceleration. Like, he's got it all. He's the best back in this class, and we were so fired up to just be able to bring him in and create that competition that Dan talked about.
Anything in his visit or any games that jumped out at you, and did the injury give you any pause?
For sure. I think anytime you're dealing with an injury like that, we have to do our homework and we have to have the full workup and all that. And we had great help with that information to say we feel like this is a guy who's on track, with this type of injury. And so that part aside, I think just looking at Jonathan, meeting with him in person, you feel the depth of character of this guy, a guy who's had to overcome. Here's a guy who went into Texas at 185 pounds as a running back, and worked his way into the guy that he is today, and so a guy that's overcome the challenges of playing behind 2 really, really good players at Texas. He was able to tell that story, bring it to life, and really with the humility and respect for those guys that he was there. He's like, I learned so much from them, and it was whether it was the most genuine answer, it was a great answer, to just hear him say that and to tell a story like I've talked about before. So putting all those things and then plus the ability, it's really cool to have him here.
And overall, coming into this draft, when you're talking to everybody, you say, I want to commit, I want to walk away with this, not necessarily position-wise, but this type of group. And was it the draft capital too also improve? I mean, like, what were your goals coming in, and do you feel like you've accomplished those so far?
Yeah, I think the goals were just to draft really good football players, and I said it earlier in some of the press conferences, like, we're going to draft best player available, and I feel like we've done that so far. We've kind of followed our board. Our board's kind of led the way, for us to acquire what we've acquired, and then in terms of gathering the capital, that's been something that I really didn't plan on doing, but it just kind of happened, and glad it did.
With 4 picks left tomorrow, how do you kind of view pairing those up with specific needs on the roster? Are you willing to stray a little bit from best player available on day 3?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, when you have some holes, we identified some holes coming into the draft, coming into free agency, and listen, you can't fill every single hole all at once, whether free agency, whether the draft. You wish you could, but we're still building this thing. It's a process, and we're just going to follow that, and we're just going to acquire some really good talent, some really good people, and keep building this thing the right way.
Dan, you picked up the fifth-year option on JC. You had time to do that. There was time to potentially negotiate a contract extension, whatever. Why make that decision now in the middle of the draft? Why was that important to you?
Yeah, I just felt like it was one of those things. You see JC around here, the work that he's putting in, the dedication, just being here every single day, busting his ass. He deserved it. I think obviously he's had some tough stretches with injuries, but it's not due to a lack of work or a lack of commitment from JC. So we're excited about him. We're excited about his future, and just really excited for him.
Would you guys like to come at it tomorrow with another corner?
Yeah, I think corner-wise, I think that's definitely an area that we'd like to address at some point, whether now or whether post-draft. There's still some people out there that we would consider, and we're just gonna, again, we're gonna try to build the roster the right way, and timing-wise, we'll see what presents itself.
Dave, you mentioned versatility with both your first two picks in this draft. Did you feel like that was something that was maybe missing from this team a little bit, and you needed to add that, or just kind of how does that fit into your philosophy?
It really is just a part of our philosophy, so it wasn't necessarily something that we were trying to fill there. It's just the type of players we're looking for. How much can they bring? What can they do? I kind of talk about this a lot. It's just like we're really concerned about what our players can do, not what they can't do. And so the more they can do, the more ways we can, attack the defense and really have to make them cover all 53 and a third wide, and Jonathan, and Xavier are definitely players that can do that, and even Trevin, just looking at the versatility with his athleticism, the things we're going to be able to do with him defensively is really exciting as well.
Dave, you've said that you want to bring in competition, push the roster, make guys uncomfortable. Specialists, that's kind of easy to do, bring in one guy to compete. Do you look at kicker or punter as a position that you guys want to have a competition there and bring in maybe somebody younger, even just to keep guys fresh heading into the summer, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's an annual thing. You try to bring in at every position multiple people, and it just elevates the play. It just does. There's an empty basketball court without a ball bouncing around, then all of a sudden you roll a ball out there, and the whole environment, the whole energy changes in the room. And so I think just having that is great. And we'll create those in training camp. We'll create those competitive moments and say, okay, hey, let's stop the drill. Everyone's watching right now. We got kicks, and put them in those types of situations. It's really fun, to elevate it that way.
And I only ask is you brought his name up, but Mr. Tepper was in there. What was his involvement tonight? And I know it was your first time being in charge of working with him, but what was it like working with him in this situation?
Oh, it's great. It's great working with him. Mr. Tepper, he's into it so much, and I think him and Mrs. Tepper, they just enjoy being in there, seeing us get the work. Just having fun in there, picking great players, and I think they just love kind of like being involved and seeing these players and getting to know these players and just like the little details about them. So working side by side has been great, and looking forward to many more years.
For a couple more years, a couple more questions.
We've got the time.
A couple more.
Yes, please.
For both of you, so Brooks goes off the board at 46, and he's the first running back. Does it speak to, I don't want to say how devalued running backs become, but there isn't as much importance placed on running backs. Over the years, you've probably seen that change. I mean, is it surprising to you, or is it just the way the league has gone?
I mean, I think for us, we value the running backs. We value the run game. And I think, again, to have a guy like Jonathan Brooks there, he was a guy that we loved, we identified. And, hey, listen, as long as we're happy with who we're picking and, value-wise, they're valuable to us, because we're going to be running the ball. We're going to be a physical team. And, I know Dave will speak more on that.
Yeah, I think we do have to just kind of trust, what does the league say? What do we feel like the whole thing, where does everybody see the value of the running back? And we have to play off of that too and just be aware of it, but for us, certainly, just knowing the style of football we're going to play, that position is so important, and just to kind of, touch on the question earlier, just about the running back room, like all these guys are going to play, let's look at the history of the league, and every team that I've been on, we used all of our running backs at different points because it's just such a violent position. We look for those players who can handle that, but also just knowing we have good, solid players because we are going to run the ball. And it's going to be a non-negotiable for us, and this gives us a real chance to just add another good runner to the mix.
Going off of that, I mean, Brooks comes in, I think, with just a little over 230 touches in 3 years. When you've got somebody who still has that much tread on the tire, so to speak, what can you do with that?
Yeah, it's amazing, right? And so you do all the analytics and you study all the, the history of running backs and the amount of carries and all that. And this is a really amazing opportunity for us. Best back in the class to have this type of year, this type of production, and to see his future, to see where he can become. It's really exciting.
I'm sorry. Dave,
Well,
you...
Alex, then we'll go Mike, and then we'll...
Okay. You spoke about Jonathan's story, about him coming into Texas, 185 pounds, whatever. Is there any part of Trevin's story that stuck out to you, whether that be on the football field or whether that be personally, that kind of resonated with you and made you want to select him?
Yeah, I'll keep the personal side just kind of, between us. That was pretty private talk, but just in terms of his athletic story, the profile of his athletic background as a track athlete, as a state champion long jumper, some of the things that he's done that way. He's 237 pounds. With that kind of explosiveness, sky's the limit potential-wise from an athletic standpoint. And like Dan said, now it's just about development. Now it's about him learning the system and becoming part of us. And special teams is going to be a huge part of his future. We're counting on him to come in and be a war daddy for us that way too.
The relationship between you and Dane Jackson is well documented. Do you have, I mean, you're probably not going to tell us who it is, but is there a Dane Jackson on your draft board right now that you say, hey, when we get to that 6th or 7th round, I want that guy, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think there's, some guys we've identified, like in those later rounds, that have the qualities, the same type of qualities that, Dane has. So, yeah, there's always those, like, diamonds in the rough that we're looking for and that our scouts are looking for, that our coaches are looking for. So, yeah, we're gonna turn over every stone, and we're gonna try to find those type of guys.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
See you guys.